So the controversy surrounding the transfer of two Guantanamo Bay-based prisoners into the country has created a lot of fury. There's been a lot of talk, a lot of discussions on it on our airwaves, and many have said that there seems to be a certain threat to the Ghanaian security, and also the fact that government has not discussed it to a very large extent with even the representatives within the legislature. The concerns of the Ghanaians, valid or not. Danny Fennell is the head of public affairs for the U.S. Embassy here in Ghana. Danny, a very good afternoon to you. And what do you make of the controversy going on about the two prisoners from Guantanamo Bay to the country?
So first, thank you for coming to speak with us. We appreciate seeing you. This is an issue, I think, of a much more global or wide-ranging import. President Barack Obama has made part of the cornerstone of his national policy to close the detention center in Guantanamo Bay. He ran on that as a candidate. He's moved forward as a president. The manner of doing that is twofold. First, to do a background check on the individuals being held to determine whether they continue to pose a threat individually. And secondly, to find a way to bring them back to their own country if possible. In the case of these two individuals coming to Ghana, we couldn't bring them to their own country. They are from Yemen, and Yemen is not in a position to accept refugees or returnees at this time. So Ghana actually has shown great leadership. They're one of several countries that has stepped up to be who is an excellent partner, that's shown their alliance and their support for this goal, this international policy goal. And so they're one of 55 countries from around the world that is accepting refugees and repatriating rather than keeping them in the detention center.
Now, why are you threatening the national security of the state?
Well, in this case, I don't think it's a threat. I think that these two individuals specifically that are coming to Ghana have been vetted for years. So actually, over 5 years ago, our apparatus that does background checks, so that includes the Department of Justice, Department of Defense, all of the intelligence agencies, looked at their background, cleared their record, and decided that they don't pose an active threat. So when you have someone affiliated with an organization, they hold different roles. So these were not active combatants. We think that they were probably more like a chauffeur or a courier. And so although they had useful information at the time of their capture, they really are not posing a threat in that sense. So the clearance process was very robust.
They really are not posing a threat, the U.S. government has said. So why couldn't they have stayed in the United States, but you're bringing them to Ghana?
Well, they never were in the United States, so they couldn't stay there. They'd have to be moved to someplace first. And so the first priority is to move them to their own country, just like any repatriation means to bring back to your own country of your patriotism. But in this case, we couldn't bring them to Yemen. They was not available. Politically, it's also impossible to bring them to the United States because Congress passed a rule prohibiting the transfer. So the second choice is to look for a friendly nation that is organized, that understands the role, is trying to make things better for the world. And Ghana is among the 55 countries that has stepped up so far, and we're very grateful. We see this actually as an instance where the government of Ghana has shown international leadership. They're being viewed as a partner of the United States in a way that's very useful, and we think it's the right thing to do.
Now, talking about them not being able to stay in the U.S. because Congress has passed a law, so to speak, or a resolution that they shouldn't be brought into the United States, but Ghana has come forward. How does the U.S. view the fears expressed by the Ghanaian people?
Well, I think there's two things to consider. First, I think that raising questions about anything that happens in the national context is appropriate. The fact that you're discussing it, there's online discussion, there's newspaper discussion, that the press is fulfilling its role of finding out facts, and that's what we're doing today. But I think that when we get down to the facts, we'll see that these individuals are not active threat They're not terrorists. They're not people that are participating in something in an active way. And this transition, allowing them to have access to a residence and to a community and to a religious environment, is part of a process of reintegration into society, which is the right thing. They are not being held in a prison. They're not being held prisoner in that sense. We want them to become members of the world community and eventually be able to go back to their own country.
Members of the world community, reintegrated them into society. Why are we not seeing them? Why is everything clouded in some sort of secrecy, so to speak?
Well, here you are on national television, so it's not that secret. But
I'm
I think
talking about the two prisoners. If we want Ghanaians to welcome them and they should be reintegrated into society, then it should be transparent.
No, I see your point, your question. The process of how they'll be monitored, et cetera, is all in the hands of the Ghanaian government, and so I'd invite you to talk to them specifically. But the rubric is well tried. There's a model that they're following that has been very successful in different countries, and so this is over 50 countries have had success. And I think the Ghanaians are good partners, and they're smart, they're organized, they're able to follow through on the plan, and I think that they're going to have success.
Danny, there's talk about some financial reward to the Ghanaian government. Does this involve any financial reward whatsoever?
I wouldn't put it in terms of reward. The United States, I think, is asking the Ghanaians to do some work as a partner with us. And so we're going to help with the remuneration of the expense of the residency and food, et cetera. For the first period of time. But really, this is a partnership. The United States partners with Ghana in many areas, in the development of energy, the development of education, in health. We have the Peace Corps. We do many, many things with Ghana in a partnership basis. And Ghana has exhibited great leadership, I think, in peacekeeping and the presidency of ECOWAS up until last year. They've been a growing presence in the international community. And this is another instance where they're, I think, growing in both maturity and indicating that they have a good model of leadership.
So there's absolutely no financial reward, so to speak, beyond just you taking care of their food, clothing, and other. There's nothing like that. You would deny that?
No, and I hope the Ghanaian people don't want to rent out their country like a hotel either. This is, in fact, a policy imperative. They're interested in moving forward to do what's best for the world. And we applaud and we praise the Ghanaian government for doing so.
Can we look at the document in terms of the agreement? I'm sure this is not just a verbal agreement. There are legal documents, the paperwork. Can we look at the paperwork and do a review of it for transparency's sake?
I'm not sure there is a document to review that's public, but the arrangements of what will happen to the former detainees, I'm sure that the host government will be able to disclose those things.